All right, welcome to Hannity on this breaking news night. Let's go back to November 8th, 2016. You, we the people, shocked the world. You voted for a fighter, for a disruptor, someone who will battle hard to keep promises that he made to you, and someone who will stand up to Washington, the establishment, smash through government bureaucracy, and actually get things done. And it's working. Well, tonight, President Trump is on offense, determined to fund the wall on our southern border that he promised. He is now holding congressional Democrats accountable in a very public way. And yep, fighting for what he promised you. Now, coming up, we're going to show you how Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, while they're playing petty partisan politics, President Trump is determined to protect the American people. We're going to play you the tape from today's contentious, well, you might want to call it Trump beatdown, and explain why the blithering idiots leading the Democratic Party are way out of their league tonight. Plus, we'll review the president's plan for much-needed criminal justice reform. And I have a message for deranged New York Times hack Paul Krugman, who's literally saying the United States of America, our country, is part of the axis of evil. It was a really bad day for Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels, as she has now been ordered to pay nearly $300,000 for President Trump's legal bills. All right, stay tuned. And we have a huge announcement at the end of the show. But first, it's time for tonight's breaking news, well, Trump beatdown opening monologue. Let's be honest, border security is a deadly serious issue. Look at this. According to the Center for Immigration Studies, since 2001, 15 suspected terrorists, they've been apprehended at our southern border, including Islamic extremists from Al-Shabaab, the Taliban, ISIS. The true number of terrorist-related crossings is, of course, classified, likely much higher. And meanwhile, over 25,000 other known criminal immigrants have been arrested since 2016. This includes over a dozen murderers, 370 convicted sex offenders, and nearly 5,000 individuals convicted of illegal drug or weapons charges. Now, of course, I would tell you the vast majority of people that want to cross the border illegally probably are people that want a better life for themselves and their families. But even illegal immigrants with the best intentions, they are costing we, the taxpayers, an enormous amount of money. According to a recent study, every illegal immigrant that successfully crosses our border costs you, the American people, $70,000 a year. And on December 3rd, over 3,000 people were caught illegally crossing in just one day. In November, a 2-year-old toddler was found crossing the border without her parents. We must have the ability to decide who comes into our country, to ensure the safety on both sides of the border, to vet people, to make sure they can take care of themselves. So now more than ever, we need a massive wall. It's a common sense strategy that actually works, keeping potential terrorists, those that are criminals, human traffickers, drug traffickers, out of this country, illegals. That's a national security issue. The president has long promised now to build that wall, and now he's fighting to do just that. He's fighting for what's right. Now, he fought hard. This is his history for tax cuts. He gave us the largest tax cuts in history. He fought for new trade deals, and he's winning on that front. He fought back against Obama's endless bureaucratic regulations, and he's created an environment for businesses that are now thriving. He's fought for energy independence, and for the first time this week, in 75 years, we are energy independent. He fought for the confirmation of qualified, originalist justices, and he's won. And now he's fighting for the wall on our southern border in a big way and confronting Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, for playing politics with what is the safety and security of every American citizen. Take a look.
I'd like not to see a government closing, a shutdown. We will see what happens over the next short period of time. But the wall is a very important thing to us. I might put it a different way. Border security is extremely important. And we have to take care of border security. When you look at what happened with the caravans, with the people, with a lot of, we shut it down. We had no choice. We shut it down. But it could be a lot easier if we had real border security.
You have the White House, you have the Senate, you have the House of Representatives. You have the vote. You should pass it
No, we
right
don't have
now.
the votes, Nancy, because in the Senate we need 60 votes.
No, but in the House.
And we don't
you
have.
could bring it up right now.
Yeah, but I
today.
can't, excuse me, but I can't get it passed in the House if it's not going to pass in the Senate. I don't want to waste time.
Well, the fact is, you can get it started that way.
The
And-
House we could get passed very easily,
Okay,
and we
then
do.
do it. Then
But
do
the
it.
problem is the Senate, because we need 10 Democrats to vote,
No,
and
no, that's
they
not
won't
the
vote.
problem. We'll find out.
Nancy, we need border security. It's very simple.
Of course we do.
We need border security.
do.
People are pouring into our country, including terrorists. We have terrorists. We caught 10 terrorists over the last very short period of time. 10. These are very serious people. Our border agents, all of our law enforcement has been incredible what they've done. But we caught 10 terrorists. These are people that were looking to do harm. We need the wall. We need, more important than anything, we need border security, of which the wall is just a piece. But it's important.
You just say my way or we'll shut down the government. We have a proposal that Democrats and Republicans will support to do a CR that will not shut down the government. We urge you to take it.
And if it's not good border security, I
It
won't
is
take it.
very good border
And if it's
security.
not good border
That's what the
security,
border
I won't
security
take it.
asked for.
It's what the
Because when
board.
you look at these numbers of the effectiveness of our border security, and when you look at the job that we're doing
You
with our
just said it is
military-
effective.
Can I tell you something?
Yeah, you just said it's
Without
effective.
a wall, these are only areas where you have the walls.
We wanna do
Where
this-
you have walls, Chuck, it's effective.
We-
Where you don't have
Wait a
walls,
second.
it
Let's
is not
follow,
effective.
officer. We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad,
Let
Nancy.
us- No,
It's
but
called transparency.
I know, it's not transparency when we're not stipulating to a set of facts, and when we want to have a debate with you about saying we confront some of those facts without.
You know
saying
what?
to the
We need
public,
border security.
this
That's
isn't
what we're going to be
true.
talking about, border security. If we don't have border security, we'll shut down the government.
20
But,
times you
Chuck,
have called for, I will shut down the government if I don't get my wall. None of us have said.
You want to know something?
You've said
Okay,
it.
you want to put that on
You
my...
said it.
I'll take it.
Okay, good.
You know what I'll say? Yes. If we don't get what we want, one way or the other, whether it's through you, through a military, through anything you want to call, I will shut down the government.
Okay, fair
Absolutely.
enough.
And I
We
am
disagree.
proud, and I'll
We
tell you what,
disagree.
I am proud to shut down the government for border security, Chuck.
Wow. Chuck couldn't even look him in the eye. Now, tonight we have some breaking news. Fox News has confirmed that House Republicans are now considering putting a $5 billion funding the wall bill up for that vote that Nancy Pelosi wants, and they'll still fund the government at current levels. Now, this bill would prove Nancy Pelosi wrong and then put Senate Democrats in a pretty precarious position. Either fund the wall or they will shut down the government. By the way, if you're a Republican in Congress and you vote no, I will tell you right now, we will be highlighting your name and your record and holding you all accountable. This is about our nation's security. It's about stopping drug traffickers and human traffickers. It's about safety for the American people. None of this seems to matter to the left, and yet again, they're on the wrong side of what is a monumentally important issue. Look at this. According to a Harvard-Harris poll, a majority of Americans, they support the president, the wall on our southern border. 79% support a merit-based immigration system. 79% want more secure borders. 61% say the current border security is inadequate. And 68% want an end to the visa lottery system. Now, Democrats don't want to listen to the American people. Maybe they should just listen to themselves, because they're such hypocrites. In the Obama years, they sounded a lot like Donald Trump, and we've got the tape to prove it. Take a look.
I voted numerous times when I was a senator to spend money to build a barrier to try to prevent illegal immigrants from coming in. And I do think you have to control your borders.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally. The American people will never accept immigration reform unless they truly believe that their government is committed to ending future illegal immigration.
Those who enter our country illegally and those who employ them disrespect the rule of law. And because we live in an age where terrorists are challenging our borders, we cannot allow people to pour into the U.S. undetected, undocumented, and unchecked.
Oh, how times have changed. They all sounded like little baby Donald Trumps. Now, we've warned you for a long time. Now, Democrats, now they want open borders, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states. They even want to get rid of ICE. and all the hard work that they do, all together. But remember, they want to keep this agenda hidden, which is exactly, was one of the more fascinating moments during that exchange with the president that went on 11, 12 minutes today. They kept urging the president over and over, can we talk privately? Please, please, you're killing us. Sure a sign, by the way, they know that they were out of touch with the American people. Can we please do this privately? Pretty please. Take a look.
The point is that there are equities to be weighed. And we're here to have a conversation in a prayerful way, so I don't think we should have a debate in front of the press on this. Again, let us have our conversation, then we can meet with the press again.
That's our proposal. If it's good then, it's good now, and it won't shut down the government.
Chuck, we can build a
But that's
much
it.
section
let's
with
debate,
more money.
Let's debate in private. Okay? Yeah, let's debate in private.
We came in here in good faith, and we're entering into this kind of a discussion in the public view.
But it's not bad, Nancy.
No,
It's called transparency.
And let us have a conversation where we don't have to contradict in public the statistics that you put forth, but instead can have a conversation about what will really work.
No, let's have the conversation in public so we can all see where you really stand. Instead of working towards a solution, you see it. Democrats playing politics and literally commencing with their favorite activity, bashing Trump, including now, moments after that tense exchange in the White House. Watch this.
The Trump shutdown is something that can be avoided, that the American people do not need at this time of economic uncertainty, people losing jobs, the market in a mood, and the rest. It's a luxury. The Trump shutdown is a luxury the American people cannot afford.
If he sticks to his position for a $5 billion wall, he will get no wall and he will get a shutdown. This Trump shutdown, this temper tantrum that he seems to throw, will not get him his wall, and it'll hurt a lot of people because he will cause a shutdown. He admitted he wanted a shutdown. It's hard to believe that he would want that. The president said things are working quite well at the border. Well, we want to give him the same thing he had last year. If they're working well last year, they should work well this year. He shouldn't shut down the government.
Amazing. Chuck couldn't look him in the eye when he was right in front of him, but he comes out strong when those cameras are out there and he doesn't have anybody to debate or to refute what he is saying. Actually, Chuck, the president said he would own it, that he's willing to fight for his promise for the American people and that national security is that important to him. Okay, he says he owns it. Accept it. And Nancy Pelosi gets back to the security of Capitol Hill. She actually then questioned the president's, you can't make this up, manhood, telling her fellow Democrats, quote, it's like a manhood thing for him, as if manhood could ever be associated with him. This wall thing. And according to the Hill, she also made this odd, weird, bizarre analogy. It goes to show you, you get into a tinkle contest with a skunk and you get tinkle all over you. Wow. That's the leader of the Democratic Party, soon to be Speaker of the House. This is going to be, listen, you watch in the first 3 months of next year, this is going to be entertainment at its highest level. I promise you. Now let's contrast those very petty statements to how President Trump reacted following the meeting. Take a look.
I don't mind having the issue of border security on my side. If we have to close down the country over border security, I actually like that in terms of an issue, but I don't want it to be an issue. I want it to be something that the country needs. It's not really an issue. It's something the country needs. It's common sense. The country needs it. We need protection. We need border security. We need security from drugs that are pouring into our country. They're coming in right through that southern border, and we need a wall. We need border security, and part of border security is a wall. So I don't mind owning that issue. I mean, Chuck's problem is that, you know, when we last closed down, that was his idea. And honestly, he got killed. And so he doesn't want to own it. And I said, you know what, rather than us debating who's owning it, I'll take it. I'll take it. If we close down the country, I will take it, because we're closing it down for border security. And I think I win that every single time.
Ownership, responsibility, keeping promises, the courage to fight back. While some criticize the president's style, this is why this president was elected. It's why the border wall will get done one way or the other. He is a disruptor in chief, and finally promises are made that are being kept. the same reason that President Trump's bipartisan prison reform bill will also likely pass Congress and become law. Soon, nonviolent, low-risk offenders will have the chance to once again contribute to society without unreasonably long prison sentences. This is good for America. Everyone, again, nonviolent, very important, especially those who are first-time offenders. They should have a chance at redemption. Now, remember this scene, Alice Marie Johnson, who we'd had the opportunity to meet and interview, thanking the president, thanking the country for a second chance. She spent 20-plus years in prison for one drug offense, nonviolent. And now others like Alice Marie Johnson, currently in prisons, they will be given a second chance. Now, despite real progress across the country on multiple fronts, well, Trump derangement syndrome has devastated some of America's worst so-called journalists. Of course, this includes New York Times hack Paul Krugman. This is the most insane thing I think I've read in the New York Times, and that says a lot. Tweeting out an article about how climate change, along with a statement that reads, quote, "There's a new axis of evil, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United States." Okay, is this what the New York Times has become? A paper so filled with anti-Trump rage that they employ a person that's calling the United States of America evil? Not only is Krugman's anti-climate change rage absurd, it's also misplaced. Mr. Krugman, in 2017, the U.S. actually led all countries in reducing carbon emissions. I guess journalism is not one of his strengths. But what else would you expect from the New York Times? And for the record, Paul, no, America's not perfect. No country has ever been. But there's never been a country that has accumulated more power and abused it less, and accumulated more power and used it to help advance the human condition more than the United States of America. Of course, you and your biased newspaper, so-called of record, need a history lesson. All right, joining us now with reaction to our monologue, former Secret Service agent Dan Bongino, Fox News contributor, Tammy Bruce.
Hey there.
The best part of today was it should be public, Dan Bongino. Loved it. I want to see that every day. They don't want you to see that. And the other part is, I'll take ownership of the safety of the American people. Absolutely. It's worth fighting over.
Yeah, they dropped a huge L on this today, Sean, Nancy and Chuck. They lost big. And Sean, something happened that should indicate to everybody watching just how badly they lost that interaction in the Oval Office with Trump. Did you see how quickly not only they jumped to the cameras, but then on Capitol Hill, there was a flurry to get to the cameras again. They couldn't reframe this thing any quicker, but they realized something happened here. Right in front of the country, they were put on the spot with a simple question. Will a wall increase border security or not? And Chuck and Nancy flubbed. There's no mulligan. We all saw it. They dropped a huge loss, and Trump exposed them for what they are. He did a great job today framing this in terms of border security.
You know, look at the costs alone for the American people. Look, I've been down there 13 times, Tammy, all the way from the Rio Grande through San Diego, in drug warehouses, horseback, helicopter, boats, all-terrain vehicles, foot. I've been out with these guys. I've seen it up front. The Center for Immigration Studies, that they calculate a staggering 63% of households led by non-citizens use at least one welfare program, and it's costing the American people $70,000 a year. Criminal justice system, healthcare system, educational system. We pay per illegal immigrant $70 grand a year.
Yeah, look, we're a generous country. We are. And yet Americans are realizing that there is a better way to do this instead of having it be this chaos. But also, another number, 80% of the fentanyl that comes into this country comes in through the southern border. This is about life and death for American citizens and also for immigrants who come into this country. We want to stay the country that people want to come to. And in order to do that, we've got to secure the border. But I would also say with that scene in the Oval Office where the Democrats continue to beclown themselves, it is the best chance for Americans to see is President Trump's commitment to transparency, showing them that kind of meeting. But when they're scrambling to not give him $5 billion for a wall, that's a lot of money in just human history. But for some reason, the Democrats were able to find $150 billion for Barack Obama to give to an American enemy, to Iran, to the biggest state sponsor of terrorism around the world, and to a country that murders Americans and kidnaps them and holds them and disappears them. They found $150 billion for that. but they can't find
That's such a
$5
great
billion to
point.
secure the American people. The president should ask the Democrats why that is the case. Why does $5 billion to secure the border, why is that not possible for them, but they found that kind of money, an extraordinary amount of money, for an enemy of the United States? The wall, the card that he was pointing to in that clip, since 1990, the 5 sectors where we have built a wall, over 90% of illegal traffic was abated, was ended. It cut it down by over 90% in every single place where we built a serious, secure wall and barrier. That's what we know. That's what the American people want. And that's what the president must, I know, Sean, you would agree, must play hardball here. He is our only chance to get these things right and to stop the swamp.
I like that he owns it.
Yeah.
You know what? We all make decisions in life and we suffer consequences. I think the American people will respond very favorably to this. And if he holds the line, look, he also has another option. By the way, Lindsey Graham said, don't give up, Mr. President. Then you had Senator Inhofe, Senator Shelby. You know, we have a $750 billion military budget. This is a national security issue, Dan. At the end of the day, if the president needs to go that route, I don't see any problem in that being Plan B. And that would include the entire $25 billion.
Yeah, Sean, let's put this in context. We have a $4 trillion federal budget. I mean, this isn't nickels we're talking about. Let's be candid. But in the scope, relatively speaking, of our federal budget, it's nothing. And the fact that, as Tammy indicated, correctly so, we were willing to shuttle pallets of cash to the Iranians, yet we're not willing to dedicate a fraction of the budget to secure our southern border with a wall the American people know works is ridiculous. You know, Sean, it's not just a national defense issue, though. That's important and paramount. But it's an economic issue. Secondly, I mean, Milton Friedman said it best. You cannot have open borders and a welfare state at the same time.
Yep.
It is a mathematical impossibility. It doesn't work.
All right. Great analysis by both of you tonight. Right on the money. Tammy, great point on Iran. All right. When we come back, we'll explain one thing. Government shutdowns, most of the government stays open. Ted Cruz will join us. Also later, 4 dead now and a dozen wounded in France at a Christmas market. Authorities are treating it as a terror attack. We'll have an update on that and a special announcement straight ahead.
60 people of the Republican Party are losing their offices now because of the transition. People are not at the morale.
And we've gained in the Senate. Nancy, we've gained in the Senate. Excuse me, did we win the Senate? We won the Senate.
When the president brags that he won North Dakota and Indiana, he's in real trouble.
I did. Let me say this.
We did win North Dakota
this
and
is the
Indiana.
most.
Well, Chuck, North Dakota and Indiana were in Democratic hands. Anyway, that was more the president's showdown, beatdown with Democratic leaders earlier today. Now, President Trump continues to forge ahead despite Democratic obstruction. Earlier tonight, he tweeted this: thanks to Leader McConnell for agreeing to bring a Senate vote on criminal justice this week. These historic changes will make communities safer and save tremendous taxpayer dollars. It brings much needed hope to many families during the holiday season. All right, joining us now with reaction to this and so much more, Texas Senator, whoa, we got the new beard thing going on. I didn't know you had that. Ted Cruz is with us. Good to see you, Senator.
It's good to be with you, Sean.
I think you're the only guy in history. I may be wrong. I think you've had more money thrown at you in that last election than ever before in any Senate race. Is that pretty accurate? Almost $100 million?
Yeah, no, it's right. They spent over $80 million against us. We were outspent 3-1. And they increased Democratic turnout by over 100%. But thankfully, we turned Texans out, we turned Republicans out, and we ended up winning statewide. Very gratified for that victory.
Important race. Here's what I want to ask you. I remember when in 2013 or 14, when you did a filibuster, and I was up for a good part of the night. I can tell you who actually supported you. And I watched you, and then there were predictions. He's just lost us the Senate. And in 2014, no, we actually had a very good year for the Senate. I watched the president today, and I'm thinking, this is what people want from their elected officials, to fight for the promises they made. You were fighting on health care then. He's fighting on borders now. Why don't we see more of this in the Republican Party?
Sean, I think you're exactly right. The American people have for a long time been frustrated with Washington, frustrated that too many elected officials don't follow through on their promises. And they want us to do what we said we would do. You know, I watched that whole exchange with the president, Chuck Schumer, and Nancy Pelosi, and I think the president was terrific that he was standing up and saying, we're going to keep our promise. We're going to secure the border. We're going to build the wall. And I'll tell you, one of the surest indications of how unhappy the Democrats were in that exchange is over and over again, Nancy Pelosi says, can we turn the TV cameras off? We're not supposed to be doing this publicly. Right. You can tell they're on the losing end of the argument when she's scared that cameras are showing that she and the Democrats are for open borders, and the president is fighting to do what the American people want, which is secure the border, build the wall, and keep our country safe.
Well, and I was down with Rick Perry on the border and on boats and helicopters. I've been down to the border from the Rio Grande through San Diego 13 times. I sat through a security briefing with Governor Perry, 642,000 Texans victims of crime in a 7-year period. Here's my question, though. And by the way, I got to give Lindsey Graham credit when he stood up to Justice Kavanaugh in that case against what was happening to him. Here's my question. Everybody seemed to fear a government shutdown. Don't essential services continue? The elderly will get their Social Security check. Medicare continues. Our military is in place. So why always the big fear about a shutdown on something as important as our national security?
Well, listen, essential services continue during any shutdown, and at this point, about 70% of the federal government has already been appropriated, so we're fighting over about 30% of the federal budget. Now, I personally hope we don't have a shutdown, but I think the president is absolutely right to say the American people want the border secured. It's the right thing to do, and the Democrats are just being obstructionists. They are opposed to border security, and I'll tell you, that's a big reason why Republicans grew our majority in the Senate this election. As the president noted, winning North Dakota and Indiana, winning Texas is because the American people want the border secured.
Let me ask you about Mueller and where we are with this. First of all, your thoughts on the double standard. Hillary Clinton, uranium one deal, gave 20% of our uranium to the hostile nation of Russia and the hostile actor Putin. Nobody investigates that. 20% and $145 million went back to the Clinton Foundation, or the dossier, which we now know that they never vetted, but it was the foundation of this entire or the bulk of information for the FISA applications. Nobody talks about that. The money that paid for the dossier was funneled through a law firm. That would seems to me would be a campaign finance issue, but they're trying to claim Donald Trump has campaign finance issues. As a lawyer, I'm asking you, do you see that? Because I do not.
Listen, all of these are serious allegations, and the Department of Justice needs to investigate serious allegations of criminal conduct. One of the things frustrating over the last 2 years is we have not had sufficient accountability in the Department of Justice. I think the Department of Justice should be blind to political party. I don't want a Republican DOJ or a Democratic DOJ. I want a Department of Justice that's faithful to the Constitution and the law. Right. And I'm hopeful with the new Attorney General nominee, Bill Barr, that we will see that at the Department of Justice. We need to make sure everyone's held accountable.
I had this woman, Alice Marie Johnson, on, who the president commuted her sentence. Amazing woman, 20 years, single drug crime. How do you feel about the prison reform bill as long as violent felons are not included?
Well, I think we're getting ready to have a major bipartisan victory, and I want to commend the president's leadership on criminal justice reform. I'm a longtime advocate of criminal justice reform. I think reducing mandatory minimum sentences for nonviolent drug offenders makes a lot of sense. There are far too many young black men in prison for decades for simple possession. That's not right. But my big concern, and you just put your finger on it, is we should not be releasing violent criminals. Violent criminals are totally different. I draw a big line between violent and nonviolent. And so what happened last week, I drafted an amendment to this bill that excluded violent criminals, that said we're going to focus relief on nonviolent criminals, but rapists, murderers, violent criminals are going to stay in jail. The sponsors of the bill in the White House, they took my amendment word for word, and when they took my amendment, I'm now supporting it. I'm a co-sponsor. I urged Mitch McConnell to take it up and schedule a vote, and just today he announced we're going to do it. I think we're going to pass this, which will be a major, major bipartisan victory, and I think it's in the interest of justice.
I do too. All right, Senator, well said. Good to see you. I'm getting used to the new look. If it gets a little wider and longer, next year you can be Santa Claus. You have a ways to go.
Ho, ho, ho.
All right, Senator Ted Cruz, thank you. All right, up next, a major developing terror situation in France. Plus, the AP now reporting that General Michael Flynn asking for probation, community service for lying to investigators. Trace Gallagher has all the details later. We have a big announcement. Not a good day for Stormy and Hannity. We'll get to that, too, straight ahead. All right, breaking news. This is a Fox News alert. AP now reporting that General Michael Flynn has requested probation and community service. Earlier today, also, there was a deadly shooting in France, which is now being treated as a terror incident. Trace Gallagher joins us live in our West Coast newsroom tonight with the latest on both these stories. Trace.
Pittsburgh's famous Christmas market, which is one of the city's biggest attractions. The same Christmas market was the focus of an al-Qaeda plot back in 2000, though it remains unclear if the market was targeted this evening. Witnesses say the suspect initially opened fire on people crossing a bridge and that the gunfire came in several bursts, sending people running and panicking into nearby buildings and restaurants. Authorities have now confirmed that 4 people were killed, a dozen wounded. Check that, 3 people now killed. They've downgraded it, a dozen wounded, though 6 of the injuries are said to be minor. Investigators say the 29-year-old gunman was born in Strasbourg and is well known to local police as a terror suspect. In fact, before today's shooting, police converged on the suspect's apartment in connection with an armed robbery earlier this week. Grenades were found during that search, but the suspect fled the apartment before police arrived, and then despite a heavy police presence at the Christmas market, the suspect also got away there. They do believe he has links to extremist groups. And separately tonight, we should say that breaking news ahead of his sentencing next week for lying to investigators about his contact with Russia's ambassador to the U.S., the lawyers for Trump National Security Advisor, the former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, are now asking that Flynn get probation and community service instead of jail time. Remember, this is key because prosecutors have also agreed the retired Army Lieutenant General should spend 0 time behind bars. The sentencing is next week. Prosecutors have until Friday to reply to Flynn's request for community service. They're asking for 200 hours of community service, no more, and no jail time. Sean.
He spent only 33 years serving his country. Trace Gallagher, thank you. I think he's been through enough. We'll continue to monitor both these stories. Also tonight, a U.S. district judge has ordered Stormy Daniels to pay almost $300,000 to President Trump for his legal fees after her defamation lawsuit against him was dismissed. Meanwhile, more signs of a lot more Clinton corruption. John Solomon out with a new report entitled, "Did the Clinton Foundation mislead the IRS?" State filings raised the question. We did reach out to the foundation for a response. They told us in part these charges are minor infractions, similar to a speeding ticket. Only bad if you're a Republican. Joining us now with reaction, The Hill's John Solomon, Fox News contributor, investigative reporter Sarah Carter, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. All right, did the Clinton Foundation mislead the IRS? And why was the home in the whistleblower, why was that home raided? Do we know, John?
I think we do. I think in that one whistleblower, by the way, that's not a whistleblower that'll be testifying Thursday, very different. I think there was a concern there were classified documents still at the house, and the government wanted to make sure they were in the proper storage facility. I don't think it's more than that. Now, let me tell you about the Clinton Foundation. 2005, Utah regulators were reviewing their license to operate in the state of Utah, and they said, hey, we see some missing data on your form. You should amend your form. You're not disclosing your fundraising consulting fees on the line that's required. Amend it, and then we'll give you a license. And the Clinton Foundation came back and said, no, thanks. Too much expense to go through the trouble of fixing our IRS form. And they just pulled out of the state and didn't do charitable. I go through about 2,000 pages of documents in this column, and you'll see numerous instances where they have a consent agreement. They admit to wrongdoing in Mississippi. They're forcibly, involuntarily closed down in Massachusetts over a technicality. They don't have a perfect record in complying with regulatory compliance, and I think that's one of the issues you're going to see Thursday at the hearing with Mark Meadows.
It's going to be fascinating. Let me go to Greg Jarrett on the legal side of this. Uranium One, and I know all of us know William Campbell. That is going to be a big issue only because that, too, is connected to the Clinton Foundation and the $145 million thrown back to the Clinton Foundation. We knew that Putin operatives were in this country involved in bribery, extortion, money laundering, and kickbacks.
Right.
Okay. Then the $145 million kickback. Between that and the dossier that Comey admits he never verified.
Right.
Big problem. All of these Clinton issues now are definitely going to be in the forefront. My sources tell me in a major way, in spite of all the double standard that has existed up to this point.
Sure, because it's a crime to confer a benefit to a foreign government or to anybody in exchange for money. And, you know, one has always wondered why the Clinton Foundation wasn't seriously investigated, not to mention Hillary and Bill Clinton. At the same time, they were investigating the Russians over this extortion, bribery, money laundering, etc. Well, it turns out there were 4 people who were in charge of that investigation: Robert Mueller, James Comey, Andrew Weissman, and Rod Rosenstein. So
wow.
I think we have answered. And, you know, I write about all of this in the book, of my book, The Russia Hoax. And, you know, it's obvious, in addition to those individuals, that Loretta Lynch's Department of Justice opened a sham investigation that quietly vanished. Why? Longtime friends of Hill and Bill.
All right. Sarah, I know you spent a lot of time with William Campbell. We had a spy, with all the talk about Russia, in Putin's network that wanted a foothold in our uranium industry. We don't have enough uranium. We have to import uranium. And they ended up getting this approved by Hillary Clinton and Eric Holder. And then the money from the people involved flowed back to the Clinton Foundation. How could anybody seriously talk about Russian influence and not deal with the Uranium One deal, Hillary Clinton, and not deal with the phony, fake Russian dossier that she paid for that was used to influence the outcome of the 2016 election by disseminating lies about Donald Trump?
Well, Sean, there's several things here, and I think you hit it right on the money. William Campbell, I was talking to him just recently as this week. You know, he had all this information. He was delivering it in very specific notes.
Who did he give it to?
His FBI handlers, to the FBI directly. He specifically told them about pay for play, how the Russians were planning on influencing Hillary Clinton and the foundation, that their hopes were that even during the time between 2009 and 2013, remember, this is an area where the FBI was investigating. I mean, the investigation was never shut down. What happened to all of that information and why they didn't go forward with it? William Campbell spoke to the Little Rock, Arkansas FBI field office recently, and he delivered that information. And now we know there's other whistleblowers coming forward. So something is shifting, something is happening, and Hillary Clinton and the foundation are being investigated. We'll just have to wait and see what they find.
I know everybody's frustrated because this has only been a one-sided investigation. So it's all been all things Trump. But, and I think you all will confirm with me, is that my sources tell me all of this is coming out. From the dossier, to FISA abuse, to the Uranium One deal. All agree?
Hope you're right.
I agree. Lots of sealed indictments, Sean. Lots of sealed indictments.
I have very good sources. I really do. And you guys do too. Great work, all three of you. Thank you. When we come back, Nancy Pelosi, really? Mocking the president's manhood after the beatdown she and Chucky got today? Jessica are here. We'll find out whose world and a big programming announcement coming up at the end of the show.